I'm Andy Claremont. I help startups with community and partnerships. The main things I look after, and the projects I'm looking after right now, helping a client down in the US called Glide. It's a no-code development platform for business apps. So build custom software for work. I look after the user community and helping our partner programs grow. I've been doing community stuff for a long time. It started off as a hobby doing like gaming forums and fan sites when I was a kid. Learned web development through that, just self-taught web skills. Went to college, the worst possible time for advertising, 2007 to 2009. Graduated into the recession. Nobody's hiring in the ad industry, but I had these self-taught skills in web dev. So I started working in tech and I didn't know how to build my network. So my approach for that was join local groups, community groups. And that quickly became go and start leading community groups, create the space for the people you want to connect with. And that took off. And I did that as kind of a side thing for a number of years. And then it became an actual career path. 2015, joining GoDaddy to help launch their partner program, GoDaddy Pro. So I came in as the founding community manager for that. And here we are 10 years later. It's been my thing ever since. If you think back to the early days of community for tech companies, the roots are kind of in my opinion, in two spots. You have the user communities, which are really about customer success and user success. So you get local user groups and stuff like that. You can go way back to the 80s with like the homebrew computer clubs, that sort of thing. It's the same energy. The other side is on the open source software, more development oriented. So you can kind of think of like what emerged out of tech, because tech has always had community at its core. You had communities form for users, and then you had communities form for builders. And it's just kind of continued to iterate off of that over the decades that followed. So where we are now is you have largely these customer support, customer success, user communities on one side. And that's where a lot of the conversation is around community and business for tech. And then the other side is kind of its own thing of like DevRel, getting developers to contribute to your product, and you're building an ecosystem around that. So kind of two separate worlds with two separate focuses. What's interesting now is we're starting to see the attributes of community and what we've always thought of as community management for both sides start to bleed into other parts of the business. So you see, for example, what I'm more familiar with on the partnership side, partner leaders typically come out of like managing channel partnerships. They come out of a background in business development and sales. They're starting to adopt the mindset of community, which is really interesting to see coming from the community side, because on the community side, we've always been trying to show our impact on business beyond just, deflecting support cases or, providing support at scale. Yeah. Now it's like, here's a direct line to revenue and sales pipeline and that sort of stuff. That's a new world for us. So I think that's where we're going to start seeing more stuff go over the next decade. I've been in this space now for about 15 years. And even from those earliest days, the attention was always on the US. The focus was on basically how do you exit to south of the border. So if you were, let's say, an IC, and you would kind of cut your teeth here, but the money and the opportunities and the growth was all in the States. So you would focus on that. And I know so many folks who would come out of school up here, get their first job, but then quickly try to get in south of the border. Or if they launched a startup, they got some funding, found some traction, they would relocate to south of the border or quickly open up a second office that would become like their main flagship office, probably in San Francisco. But with everything that's happened over the last little while and very much this year, attention is starting to turn inwards again. And I think the energy you see more broadly around, we need to find partners in other areas and start doing more within our own borders and also with other international partners. This is a huge opportunity for the tech community in Canada to, for us to turn to each other and say, what can we do together? How can we collaborate? There is so much potential here because the doors are opening to opportunities that we never really had before. So I'm excited. I'd say when folks think about Canada specifically, it's good vibes, but it's really tied to. I think it's really tied to even what we're known for in terms of trade and business. We're a land of ample natural resources. We're an export economy. We're the big backyard to the U.S. And when you think about technology that comes out of our country, it's harder to find the big success stories, right? So you'll have the two or three that you always go back to. More recently, like Shopify has been the big one recently. Before that, RIM, BlackBerry, but a lot of what we see as success isn't really at the same level as what other countries might think of as like success. Like what makes for a successful tech startup in Canada? Canada is very different from how you would define a successful tech startup in the States. I don't think we're talking about unicorns nearly as much up here. This is not a land of unicorns. This is a land of like moose. Just in general, the culture up here has always leaned more conservative, like financially conservative, a little bit more restrained on what capital you're going to inject in something. There's less willingness to take big bets or place big bets or gamble. So the investments, when it comes to any sort of venture capital, does tend to go towards things that are safer, or it's a more restrained investment, much smaller amounts. And so when I think about a moose, I think about a creature that is very self-sustaining, that is quiet but powerful, and it's not necessarily going to make itself known, but it's chugging along and doing well. And when I think about, companies in Canada that may not show up in the headlines but are thriving, that's what comes to mind. It's like there's an industry or a specialization that doesn't get all the headlines, but it's a thriving, self-sustained business that doesn't need any magic. It just does its thing. Selfishly, the reason I'm excited to get involved with something like this, like something like Tech for Canada, is that I've been working with American clients and American companies for the past 10 years. And my network is largely American. And for a long time, I've been feeling this, it's almost a bit of like both an urge and this, like there's something's missing, that I don't have the same level of connection with people in my own industry here at home. And that feels really weird. It feels like it shouldn't be like that. So what I'm really excited about for this conference for Tech for Canada is the opportunity to change that, the opportunity to start building those connections with people working on the same challenges and people working on different challenges where we might intersect, but it's Canadians coming together to do things together. That is huge. And that's what I'm most excited about.